oh, y'all are getting to be too old to go to homecoming and be partying like this and blah, blah, blah. If you guys just left it to the current students to have a good, great, whatever homecoming and it be enjoyable, fun, whatever, it ain't gonna hit the same.
It ain't gonna be on the same level.
Who gonna do the tailgating and the cookouts and be facilitating the events that y'all go to and things like that? Y'all need the alumni, okay? Do you want to eat or not? Do you want a plate before the game or not?
Listen.
Hey everyone. Welcome back to the Mother Daughter Mixtape, where we talk everything love, life, and lessons learned along the way. My name is Jada.
And my name is Charmaine.
And welcome to our podcast.
In today's episode, we are talking about HBCU culture. And I'm excited. Go Aggies. Just go ahead and kick that on off.
She already getting started, y'all.
Step one.
Not step one. As my mother mentioned, we are talking everything HBCU, between homecoming, the culture behind it, our experiences at our HBCUs, and all of that. So, yeah. Anything else you want to add?
The only thing I'll say is let's not make the assumption that everyone knows what HBCU stands for.
I was going to get into that once we kicked it off. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So grab a drink, get comfy, and let's hit play on today's episode.
Boom.
That's my line. Boom.
Yeah, somebody got to do it.
Okay, well, listen, you always want to be like your mama.
Oh, God. So let's catch up. Like, how's life? I feel like, how else are we supposed to start a conversation when you say we're catching up? Like,
well, first of all, I'm going to start off with kind of circling back to probably the last episode, or I guess technically it was episode 3 because we split up the last two.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like daylight saving time and all that. So literally now time is like gone. Like, I don't like it. I'm going to start with that again because I'm not feeling it. But other than that, life is great. Just got back from vacation yet again. Can't complain.
And you're going on another cruise soon.
In less than 30, well, just about 30 days.
Lord. I want to be like you when I grow up.
I mean, who doesn't?
Okay.
Did y'all catch that eye roll? Oh, wow.
Okay.
Anyway, life is good. What's up with you?
Yeah, I agree with you. Life is good. I mean, like you said, we just got back from vacation, so mentally getting my mind back into real working people live things because
I hate it here, by the way.
I'm tapped out on PCO. Like, I ain't got no more trips lined up like you do. So how many cruises have you taken already?
4 so far, and I have 1 to go this year.
And on top of that, you went to Paris.
I did go to Paris this summer.
You went for Bike Week.
Went to Myrtle Beach for Bike Week. I've been to Atlanta several times. I mean, you mad? I mean, why are we talking about this?
What is this energy that's going on right now, y'all? Like,
she sounds like a hater to me. Like, why you clocking my PTO days just because you don't have
I ain't clocking your days.
Just because you don't have anymore.
I ain't clocking your days. I just wanted you to share with the people how much you really do travel.
Oh, okay. I'll take that.
Y'all, she ready to go in on me for no reason. No, I ain't even do nothing.
It's all love. But no, clearly that was one of the first things I said in our introduction is that I love to travel, and I genuinely love to travel. So I try to do it as much as possible, for as little money as possible, balling on a budget. So that's the way to go.
Yeah, that's the way to do it for sure. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. So like we previously mentioned, we are celebrating HBCU culture. And for the people that don't know, HBCU stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities.
Yes.
So just to give a little bit of background, just off of the little bit that I know, HBCUs were founded with the purpose of bringing education, higher education to Black Americans, Black students, basically Black people who wanted to further their education, because at the time that, you know, these institutions were being built, for example, and that's on 1890, okay? I went to Savannah State University. My mother went to North Carolina A&T, which was founded in 1891. Around that time, Black people could not go to college, universities, further their education because of things like segregation, obviously slavery and things like that. Like, you know, it was a very racist time period. And
still is at some point and in some places.
Clock that T. But like I said, just giving a little bit of background, I think that kind of just shifts into where a lot of us have that HBCU pride. We love our HBCUs. We're very fond of the fact that we went to HBCUs because, I mean, it's all about us. It's all about celebrating us.
All day long and twice on Sundays. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
You can't tell me anything negative about my school. Now, I might talk about all the other schools.
And even as an alum, I might talk ish about my own school, but that's because I can do that.
Right.
I got a degree from my institution, so I can get online and say that, you know, my institution may need to do better in certain areas. But if you went somewhere else, I bet not hear you say nothing about my HBCU, baby.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's nothing that you can tell me negatively about my school. And I mean, if I'm talking junk about the other schools, it's all in love and good fun. Like, I'm not really, you know, negatively, like, you will never hear me putting down another school or institution, because that's just not what we do. We're all family at the end of the day. HBCU family, HBCU love, hashtag. Like, if you look up those hashtags, it's all about love and fellowship. And we just, you know, you just can't, you're not going to say nothing about my school.
Right.
And like, get away with it.
And like you said, the HBCU love is strong. Like, if I meet someone else who also went to an HBCU, even if it wasn't mine, I'm like, okay, HBCU. Like, yeah, it's a cultural thing. And it just, like I said, it's just like, we love us.
Yeah.
And we love to be surrounded by us.
And you know what else? The funny thing is, like, we were in Mexico literally last week, and I had on an A&T shirt, and I hear Aggie Pride, and I'm turning around like, listen, Aggie Pride is worldwide. Just know that. But, you know, to have that type of love when you are out of the country or just, you know, on another campus or just anywhere and you're wearing your paraphernalia from your school, somebody typically is going to be like, you know, just giving you and showing you love. And, you know, especially if they went to your school, or you might get that look like, oh, you went to so-and-so. But again, it's all in love.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love everything about, like, the HBCU culture. Again, I know I keep saying it, but, and just the people that come with it. You network and meet so many people just off of going to an HBCU alone. People, and that's the thing, too. It's like the, I guess, community that comes with it. Even if you didn't go to the same HBCU as someone, if you meet somebody who went to an HBCU or, you know, anything, and they are willing to help you in any kind of way, whether that's helping you find a job or, like, you know, people are more than willing to extend their hand to help you out just because you also went to an HBCU. And I love that. Yeah,
the community and, like I said, the camaraderie to me is unmatched. Like, I feel like you don't get that going to a PWI. And for those who don't know, that's predominantly white institution. And I have friends that have gone to PWIs and they wish they went to an HBCU. Like, I've never heard the other way around where someone went to an HBCU and wish they went to a majority white school.
Right.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. And not to shame PWIs, going to college period is a great, you know, step in the right direction and things like that. We just both went to and graduated from HBCUs. We love other HBCUs. Yeah. And like I said, I think this is a great time to celebrate HBCU culture, homecoming, as, you know, we are wrapping up homecoming season. And also just shout out, you know, our HBCUs and things like that, because I feel like while we celebrate Black History Month in February, which is the shortest month of the year, might I add.
Why?
Right. I think that it's important to celebrate Black culture and just everything Black all year round, as many opportunities as we get. So again, no hate or anything like that to PWI.
Yeah, and let me just say, just for myself, I actually went to a PWI as well. Like, I have a master's degree from a PWI, not because I didn't want to go to an HBCU, but it just so happens that my master's degree, is healthcare administration. I just, happened, we were living in Maryland at the time. So I went to the University of Maryland. So that's, the only reason, not because I sought out a PWI. So I think there are a lot of us who, we go to HBCUs and undergrad because we want the experience, like the culture. And speaking of them gym jams back in the day, baby.
Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about our HBCU experiences. So, as you mentioned, you went to the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University.
Can I say my own school? I went to the largest public HBCU in the world, named North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, A&T for short. Now, having said that, yes, back in the 90s, sounds so long ago, but the 90s was the best decade for everything. We already talked about music and all of that, but even going to college, now, A&T was coined a party school back in the day, and maybe it still is to a certain degree, but like those late 80s, early 90s, now I was there from 94 to 98. The parties, when I tell you homecoming, I mean, when you have acts like Tupac, Biggie, MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, I mean, all of those type of people, they were coming to our homecoming for our concerts. And our concerts back then weren't like at the Coliseum or like the larger venues. They were held on campus. So to me, that was like such a special time because they don't do that anymore. And I feel like homecoming, now don't get me wrong. First of all, let me back up. Can we just pause and take a time out for G-Ho? The greatest homecoming on earth is at North Carolina A&T. They call it G-Ho for a reason, because it truly is the greatest home. I don't care. You could ask other people that have come from other schools, Savannah State, Howard, FAMU, any of those schools. If they've ever been to an A&T homecoming, they will tell you that they won't tell you that it's the greatest homecoming on earth because they have to, pump up their own schools. And that's fine, as you should. But I'm like not liking your face right now.
I'm just listening. She already done shut me down for saying the school in the first place, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
I should be the one to,
that's fine,
talk about my university. Anywho, yeah, homecoming back then was a time to be had. It was, in my opinion, very different, again, because pretty much all of the events were held on campus. So you didn't have to drive here and drive there to get to an event, or, it was just like everything being on campus made it that much more special to me because, people were coming to the school and the access was different. Like you could easily get on campus and, things are very different now. That's just because times are very different now, which I understand. But I think that, I don't know, looking at homecoming back then versus now, because honestly, we just went to A&T's homecoming a few weeks ago. So that was, and I haven't been in a couple of years, I'll be honest, I don't have a reason, just life, I guess. But I had the best time. I don't know about you, but she actually went with me to homecoming a couple weeks ago. So what did you think? Because that was your second homecoming? Well, technically, you went as a baby. I'm sure you don't remember.
I remember going when I was younger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to experience it as an adult.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was just saying that wasn't technically like your second time going, but.
Yeah, I would say my first G-Ho was when I was there. So for the people that don't know, I started at A&T and then I transferred to Savannah State. No regrets. No regrets.
I was going to say, pause.
There's a bit of a hesitance when I say that because I think about what my life would be like if I would have stayed at A&T. It would be very different, obviously.
How so? Or how do you think?
I wouldn't have met the people that I've met. you know, being at Savannah State, I probably would have, you know, had different, I don't know, had a different degree. Like, I don't know if I still would have went the marketing route. Like, a lot was being considered when I transferred to Savannah State.
Interesting.
And I don't know, who knows? I could have found my college sweetheart, whatever, my man, and I could be married by now. I don't know. A&T was just so much larger. So it was like you could have met so many more people, different job opportunities when it came time to graduate and things like that. So I just think my life would be a lot different. Who knows? I might not even be living here in Charlotte. I could have gotten a job in Texas or something. Like, you just never know. So while I did transfer to Savannah State, like I said, I stayed at North Carolina A&T for a semester. Once I graduated high school, my first semester at A&T, that was my very first GHO. It was lit. Okay. Like, that was probably the best homecoming that I've ever experienced as far as like college. Like, even once I transferred to Savannah State, I didn't really partake in homecoming at all, honestly, because I didn't really know anybody. I don't know. It was just on a very smaller scale as well. So,
and I think that's okay. I mean, not every school is, and this is no tea, no shade. Like, you know, not every school is, you know, the student population is just different. Right. I mean, Savannah has like maybe 3,000 students or so, whereas A&T have
12.
I think we're up to like 14,000 this year. That's why we're the largest. So yeah, I just think that, you know, every student, a big school is not for everybody, and a small school isn't for everyone. So I think you transferring to Savannah was a good thing for you.
Oh, it definitely was. Yeah. I agree with you, because I definitely think, especially when I left high school and transitioning into college, going from that to A&T, like, I already was, I mean, I feel like, especially backing up a little bit, in high school, I had that period where I went to a private school and it was a more intimate, smaller setting. Yeah. And then I went back to public school my senior year of high school. And of course, I already knew people. I had friends and things like that, but it was still on a larger scale compared to when I was in private school. So transferring there and then going to college where it was like 10 times that, it was a big adjustment for me.
That could be overwhelming.
It was overwhelming. It was very overwhelming. So once I transferred to Savannah State, it was like all of that just kind of went away. And I think that was one of the main reasons why when I did transfer, I did enjoy it a bit more, because people would ask me all the time, like, how are you liking Savannah State compared to A&T and blah, blah, blah. And I would tell them, oh, I love it. And they both had their pros and cons.
Sure.
So it was like, obviously from a, you know, party perspective and like meeting more people and the more fun aspect, A&T takes the cake for me. But for the sake of my grades and me graduating on time,
baby, and my money,
that too. Yeah. Savannah State was good for that. And I got my degree and I graduated on time, like I said.
And did.
So.
And during COVID, I mean, that was a challenge in and of itself.
It was.
You know, for you to have to come home in the middle of a semester and do online classes.
Yeah. I literally came home from spring break.
Like, I'm going to give her a hand clap for that, because a lot of students didn't make it back after COVID. So kudos to you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. But yeah, like you said, with COVID, I remember me and my friends were in Myrtle Beach for spring break. Yeah. And my mom was texting me like, you need to come home now. Yeah. Like, and I was just like, dang. Like, it sucks.
It's getting real out here. Like,
yeah, basically. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't want to get too far off topic, but I do want to go back to GHO and just kind of talk a bit about, like you said, between like concerts and things like that, you know, after you've revisited homecoming, especially within the more recent years, do you feel that homecoming has changed at all compared to like when you were in college and what that looked like for you? And if it did, like for the better, for the worse, like, walk me through that.
I think, I'll say for the better, because we're like more widely known. I mean, I think the numbers from this year's homecoming was like over 130,000 people. And I believe it. Like, it was so many people there. Back in the day, I mean, we partied and, you know, had a good time and good attendance, but, you know, being the largest HBCU, everybody now knows like A&T is the place to be when it comes to homecomings. Now, there's some other good ones out there. FAMU has a good homecoming, Jackson State, Howard. And I'm not, you know, no tea, no shade to any of the schools that we haven't named, but, you know, I'm naming some that I've been to personally myself. So I've been to a few of the other homecomings. But yeah, I think for me, like I said, everything being on campus back in the day was like the epitome of homecoming to me. Not to say that's the one thing that I don't necessarily like these days, but I understand why, because it has grown so much. And, you know, it's almost like the city's homecoming. It's not just A&T. So people that are going to like the step show and to the concerts, it's not just students anymore. So it's like the whole city and surrounding areas, and people are coming in from out of state, and it's all kinds of stuff going on. So from that aspect, I prefer kind of back in the day, but from a perspective of, you know, just growth for the university, growth for the students, and just having that opportunity to, you know, just kind of get out and hang out and have a good time. I love that for them. And the alumni, we're still having a good time. Like the alumni events, we go to day parties now. Like we lead the night parties to the younger, I don't want to call them kids, but the younger students or younger adults. But the day parties are lit. Like we didn't have that back in the day. So that's something that's different that I like. Because listen, when you getting close to 50, I'm trying to be home by 10 o'clock. I ain't trying to go out at 10 o'clock. That's a little bit different for homecoming, but you know, that's something that's a little different. But I just think the way it has grown and just morphed, I think works really, really well. So,
yeah. And speaking a bit about like the events and stuff like that, what kind of events did y'all have back in the day? Like, I assume y'all still had, like you said, you had the concerts, and I assume y'all still had like step shows with
pretty much everything that they have today. Is just on a larger scale today. So like back then, but again, everything was on campus. So if you're familiar with A&T's campus, Corbett Gymnasium is where we had the step show. That's where we had the concert. So it was a much smaller venue, but it was like, I won't even say more lit. I can't say that, but it was just like the bomb, because like the artist is like right there on the stage versus you're in like a real concert venue like they do today. But we had the same events. I mean, Coronation, we had a gospel. And they still do that today. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, they do
still do the gospel show, but even what about the comedy show?
We had comedy shows.
Really?
Yeah, everything that they do now, we had back then.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought those would be like newer events.
No, it was just held on campus.
So were there any, I guess, performances by like well-known like comedy people or like gospel like back then? Or
I ain't gonna lie.
The memory is shot, y'all.
Listen, when you're getting close to 50 and perimenopause steps in, that memory is like not where it used to be. But yes, I can't remember from a gospel perspective, but I do remember like having decent, Adele. I don't know, not Adele, the singer. What is her name? Her first name is Adele. I cannot think of her last name, but anyway, she's a comedian. But yeah, we had like big name comedians that would come in, and I'm sure they had like big name gospel artists. And honestly, the A&T Fellowship, gospel choir, they are amazing.
The bomb. Yeah,
they are really good. Speaking of, they were just on Amazon Live with the Blue and Gold Marching Machine. Was it last week? No, 2 weeks, because we were out of town last week. 2 weeks ago after the Thursday night football game. So, you know, we're getting recognized on a national and international stage for, you know, our gospel choir, our marching band. So,
yeah. And I just want to say also, I think that's important, because even when, you know, looking at like the younger generations and they start considering what schools to go to, unless you have parents that also went to an HBCU and they're like pushing you to also go to an HBCU, kids may not think to go to those kind of schools because there's not a lot of representation in the media.
Yeah.
Or larger scale media. Of course, like nowadays, and I don't know how recent this is, where they started to showcase the football games on certain ESPN channels and stuff like that. But that didn't used to be a thing back in the day. It was just
it was on BET though. Like the homecomings, BET used to cover like black college football.
Oh, okay.
They don't really do that much anymore, but they definitely used to cover back in the day.
Yeah. So it's like like I said, if there aren't younger people who are having those parents that also went to HBCUs and things like that, it's like they don't really think or know unless they just really have that desire. And of course, social media with like TikTok and stuff, people post videos about homecoming, and that kind of gives them the incentive, I guess, to go to an HBCU. But again, I just really think it's important to have that media coverage on every level, TV, social media.
For sure. It definitely helps to, I don't want to say get the word out, but, to just marketing is basically, and at this point, it's almost like free marketing when you can get a game on a major network like ESPN. And even a lot of the black college games will be on like ESPN3, I think, these days. But yeah, a lot of people don't know if, like you said, if their parents didn't go to an HBCU or if they didn't grow up in an area. So like a lot of people from the West Coast, like I have friends that live on the West Coast that never considered HBCUs. And interestingly enough, I have a couple of friends that live out in Cali that I met during an internship. They came to the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina during an internship. And that's, we've been friends for 30 years now, almost. And, they're honorary Aggies at this point. But, they went to PWIs because, West Coast, Midwest, they don't have HBCUs out there. It's mostly a down south kind of East Coast type. Well, I wouldn't say pretty much south of the Mason-Dixon line, which is like Pennsylvania, Maryland area. So I think it's, like you said, very important to showcase not only just from athletics, but when I talk about the band, and I'm a band head, y'all, like I was a clarinet player up until like the 12th grade. But when I got to A&T, I was a proud member of Golden Delight. So that was a proud moment for me to be able to march with the band back in the mid 90s. And if you don't know who they are, look them up on YouTube, Instagram. They are amazing. The band itself, the Blue and Gold Marching Machine, we are the #1 HBCU band. Currently, we hold that title, and we're playing at Honda out in Cali in February. So see y'all out in LA in February, hopefully. But yeah, like that, just those things, they matter. And that's kind of what helps to get you that attention and, kind of get people interested. Because, people love marching bands, especially like HBCU bands. So
yeah. And I think it's also important to pour back into your HBCUs as well. They do a lot for you as a student and as a person and for your development and all of that. So especially as an alumni or alumna, it's important to go back to homecoming. It's important to,
donate.
Yeah.
Give back.
Yeah, exactly. These HBCUs are building the future black children who will become us eventually, in their mid-20s, 40s, 50s.
For sure. And if you don't have, the means to give back from a financial perspective, there are other ways to give back. You can volunteer. Get in with your local alumni chapters. A lot of the time they do like fundraisers for scholarships, like for the local, we live here in Charlotte. So there's an A&T chapter, alumni chapter here. There's a Savannah State alumni chapter here. So, there are ways to get involved if you don't necessarily, have the means to give back from a financial perspective.
Right. So let's dive a little deeper into homecoming, and like, I guess for people who haven't experienced an HBCU homecoming or have seen, online on TikTok, like GHO or anything, or any, HBCU homecoming, because I've been seeing it all on TikTok lately.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about a bit like what to expect during homecoming, and even for the high school students who are looking to go to college and things like that.
Yeah. What can they expect?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think homecoming is just an experience to be had, like not only as alumni, because that's really what it's about.
Right.
Homecoming. We're coming home.
Yes. And before we move on as well, I kind of wanted to address that a little bit too, because there have been some people going online, TikTok or whatever app or whatever, and saying like, "Oh, y'all are getting to be too old to go to homecoming and be partying like this and blah blah blah." Homecoming, like you said, is for the alumni.
Yeah.
Now, of course, current students can partake and should partake.
Yeah.
But like you said, it is homecoming for a reason.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. And little do y'all know how much the alumni make the homecoming in the first place.
For sure.
The current students, if you guys just left it to the current students to have a great whatever homecoming and it be enjoyable, fun, whatever, it ain't gonna hit the same.
It ain't gonna be on the same level.
Who gonna do the tailgating and the cookouts and be facilitating the events that y'all go to and things like that? Y'all need the alumni, okay? Yeah. So watch yourself and respect your elders, okay?
You're an elder now?
I'm not talking about me.
Oh. You're not a current student, though.
Well, I was saying the older alumni, especially the people that the people that they say, no tea, no shade, for real. The people that say that are too old to be partaking in homecoming and things like that, 30 plus, 35, 40 plus, and they're like, oh, you're too old, you shouldn't be partying. Girl, do you want to eat or not? Do you want a plate before the game or not?
Listen, and those plates was popping this year.
The fried fish. Okay.
The mac and cheese.
The mac and cheese, the baked beans, the burgers, the hot dogs.
All of it.
Don't piss me off.
And the drinks.
The drinks.
Flowing.
And half of y'all can't even buy liquor in the first place. Y'all be 18, 19, 20 years old in college and can't even buy no liquor. Please.
Tell them why you mad, son.
Listen. Y'all need to respect your elders, okay? And stop talking about them older alumni that come back to homecoming as they should because it's for them in the first place.
Is.
Exactly.
We make it what it is. I mean, we're glad to, partake and share with the current students. And because listen, y'all are going to be alumni at some point.
And y'all are going to want to partake in your own homecoming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, speaking of the game, first of all, my heart is about to start hurting because
they suck this year, y'all.
Listen, we're not going to talk about the football team. First of all, we are the only school that has won 4 national HBCU championships.
Period.
We're not doing so well right now. However, no one else can claim that. And we had a three-peat.
It's you and what other school that's in your current division?
Hampton.
Y'all are the only 2 HBCUs.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, we're currently in the CAA. We used to be in the MEAC. So, that's kind of what growth does for you with, athletics and, when your institution grows, so we're trying to elevate and get to the next level on not just athletics, but on several different levels. But yeah, football team ain't doing so hot right now, but that's okay. That's okay.
Y'all had y'all's time.
But we still had a great time at homecoming.
We did.
So we went to the game, like you said, the tailgates, the food was all that. Shout out to those who gave us plates because we just kind of rolled up.
Right. This is why you always got to know somebody, okay? Go to homecoming with somebody, make a friend, make a cousin, and get you a plate.
Listen.
And like I said, it just goes back to the community. Like,
absolutely.
More than likely, the alumni are more than willing to give you a plate just because.
Be respectful.
Right. Don't roll up with your hand out just expecting people to just do that. But it's like,
show some love.
Right.
You'll get love shown.
Right. When you network, when you, like you said, show love and things like that.
Yeah.
It's easy to, get taken care of. Okay.
Basically.
So yeah, what to expect? Like you said, the football games, the tailgates, the parties,
parade. Y'all never make it to the parades because it's like 8:00 in the morning. Right. Y'all be done partied so hard that you can't get up the next morning.
There's like she said, parades. There's concerts. Like you said at A&T, this isn't the case for every HBCU, but there's gospel shows, comedy shows,
step shows,
right? So just a lot of fun events, and typically homecoming is about for a week.
Long. Usually it starts on I don't know if it's Sunday, probably Monday to Sunday, because the gospel concert is typically the Sunday after, or at least at A&T it is.
Yeah. So and pretty much the same at Savannah State. We have our football games, we have our tailgates. We also have our parties. Savannah State can party, okay?
Yeah.
One thing about us, we can party. But even outside of homecoming, and maybe this is where we can start to shift a bit and talk a bit about like the tradition, the pride, and the culture that comes with going to an HBCU. Again, shifting away from homecoming, at Savannah State, we have an event called Orange Crush, where around March, April time, that's where it's like almost around, it's close to spring break, but it's not spring break. It's like a spring break before spring break almost. And, you know, a lot of people come from out of town to go to Savannah, to Tybee Island, go on the beach, party, and it's a weekend full of parties, drinking, having a good time. So
I think that's kind of dope because, you know, like you said, Savannah is like almost on the water. So Tybee Island is like right there. That's something that, you know, we didn't have, you know, so I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And even for us to be a smaller school, if you grew up in Georgia, period, and maybe even the surrounding areas, you know about Orange Crush. So like I said, even though we're on a smaller scale, and even I think Savannah is really well known for St. Patrick's Day as well.
Yeah.
Like we got a little something going on.
A little something.
Just a little something. So with that being said, I guess, is there anything from a cultural perspective or like any traditions that you see at A&T or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know if they still do it because I'm not a current student, but back in the 90s and probably maybe even the 80s, there was an event that used to be called Aggie Fest around the same time frame. So like right around spring break, and it was basically a party time. So, but it would be on campus yet again, and we would have not concerts, but maybe a concert and, you know, just parties and people hanging out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we called it Aggie Fest. So kind of same concept. It was just on campus.
Yeah. And even from like, I guess the band perspective, did y'all have anything that was kind of like your tradition? Because I know, and this is kind of going back into homecoming, but around homecoming time after the game and things like that, like the alumni.
The fifth quarter.
Yeah, fifth quarter, right.
Yeah.
And at the end, once everybody's leaving and stuff, y'all jump in line behind the band and y'all dance and, you know,
Yeah. And that typically is only at homecoming. So the alumni will jump in, you know, with the current band members and, you know, we'll march back to the band room and whatnot. But the fifth quarter that I was mentioning, that's more just HBCU band culture, not just at homecoming. So especially if you're playing another HBCU, you're going to have that fifth quarter. So after the game has ended, there's going to be a period. It's basically like a band battle. So y'all going back and forth. And it's just, I don't know, if you're really into like band culture, like that's like better than halftime in my opinion.
Yeah. And it, again, it's just a pride, tradition, you know, kind of thing. I don't know that I've really seen that at PWIs where they have a fifth quarter, a fifth quarter kind of thing.
Never.
So,
have I, and not to say that it doesn't happen, but I've never seen it.
Right. What are some of your favorite memories from going to North Carolina A&T?
I think probably like my freshman year, because that was actually the only year that I lived on campus. So because A&T, even back then, and especially now, housing was difficult to get. Like you're guaranteed housing your freshman year. After your freshman year, you're not. So you kind of go into this lottery system. So my freshman year, that was the only year that I lived on campus. So I moved off. And I feel like had I been on campus at least another year or a couple of years, my experience would have been a little bit different. So I don't know. For me, my freshman year was like all that because, I mean, I'm a freshman. It's your, you know, first time really being away from home and kind of by yourself. And, you know, that was I was in the band as a freshman. So, you know, doing that. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I marched my first 3 years. So up until my junior year. So yeah, my freshman year was probably my favorite time. Like,
how did you get in the band your freshman year? Like, did you have to do tryouts and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So fortunately, I knew someone who also marched in the band. So, you know, she kind of helped me, you know, along the way in terms of, you know, getting to the tryouts and knowing what to do and just really getting signed up and things like that. Because I feel like had I not had, you know, that person to help, I'm not sure that I would have had the know-how, honestly, to like go through that process to get to the tryout phase and things like that. It's much different now. But back then it was pretty much, you just kind of had to know somebody, or you maybe tried your sophomore year because you've kind of, you meet people as you are on campus or whatnot. But yeah, I think it was very different then. I don't think I would make the squad today.
The squad be on it today.
Listen,
like
those girls are amazing.
Yeah. And like you said, it's just very different now. Like the moves that they're doing, the expectation,
Yes.
it's very different.
Yeah.
So, did you have a car while you were on campus your freshman year?
I did not.
Okay.
Freshmen actually were not, I won't say they weren't allowed. They weren't supposed to have cars. I think I took my car maybe the last 2 months like of my freshman year. And I got like parking tickets galore because I was not supposed to have a car and I didn't have a parking sticker. And listen, that kind of stuff can keep you from graduating. Like by the time
How was you paying it off?
I don't even remember. I think I had a summer job, so I probably paid it off like the next semester or whatever.
Lord.
Listen, have you not had a parking ticket?
No.
You want to know why?
Actually, yes, I did. I had a single
Did I know about
ticket.
that?
Probably not because I paid for it myself.
How did you pay for it?
At the time, I was working or doing DoorDash or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that. But yeah, for the most part, I didn't have a car my freshman year. And I think that was a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because you was on the go. Even from high school, you was on the go.
Yeah, I've had a car since I was 16. So
yeah, like you said,
always had wheels.
Best not. And I wanted to talk a bit about, because you used to visit Central's campus pretty, I don't know if I would say often, but enough. Do you want to talk about that at all, or?
I mean, if you really want to,
Just getting into the HBCU stuff. Like,
yeah, so, okay. As I was in high school, my high school was literally a block away from NCCU, so North Carolina Central University, literally a block away. So we had easy access to campus, and pretty much anybody could get on campus back then, and being that I had a car since I was 16, basically in the 11th grade, we would be over at Central's campus all the time, baby. Like,
even when you were at A&T?
Not so much, because it's like almost an hour away. So had it been closer, maybe I would have, but it was more so like when I was in high school. So
would you say that was your first, I guess, experiences or like taste of an HBCU?
For sure. Okay. Yeah, because we some of the things, I was also in the band in high school, so we would do concessions during the Central basketball games. So we had reasons to be on campus sometimes. But yeah, definitely, because and I'll say this, so my high school, and I'll just go ahead and shout it out because I went to an all-black high school as well. So, Hillside High School, Durham, North Carolina, that's where I'm originally from. We were, kind of like the little NCCU. So we were kind of like the little sister or little brother to Central, where, everyone knew someone that went to Central. So, a lot of people stay local, when they graduate high school and decide to go to college. So, you knew people who graduated before you did that went there. So, we would be hanging out on campus or, just doing different things. So, but that was mostly, like I said, when I was in high school. And once I got to A&T, I might go to Central like for their homecoming, and they got to go homecoming too. So, I mean, most HBCUs do.
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't like often enough to where, I felt like I was there a lot.
Okay. And with that being said, I know you said that was kind of like your first taste of going to an HBCU and things like that, or getting that experience. What else, or why did you decide to go to an HBCU, and why did you also decide to go pick A&T at that?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So I honestly only applied to 3 schools, and all 3 of them were HBCUs. I had no desire to go to a PWI at all. And there are some really good schools in North Carolina. So I just didn't have a desire. So I'll tell you the 3. I applied to North Carolina Central, North Carolina A&T, and Spelman. I got into all 3. I chose A&T because it was kind of in the middle money-wise. I'll be honest. Spelman is expensive. It's a private institution, so it was expensive. I didn't get like a full scholarship. I had a full scholarship to Central and turned it down. honestly, a full academic scholarship at that. So I turned it down. I just thought that A&T was a better fit for me. My major was computer science. And I knew that A&T at the time, and still is, one of, I won't say they're not really a tech school, but, from a perspective of computer science, engineering, A&T has always been one of the top schools, not just HBCUs, top schools for engineering. So for me, that was like the main thing, was because of the major that I wanted to complete. And it was far enough away from home because it was about an hour, but close enough that if I need to run back for something, I could do that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. What made you think about Savannah? Like, I know that, like, we talked about, like, in a previous episode that you didn't want to go to an HBCU. So what ultimately made you want to go to an HBCU?
I think once I got to high school and I really started to consider college, I just went through this shift where I just wanted to continue to be around people that looked like me. Mm-hmm. Because, growing up in Atlanta, I mean, I was primarily around me, people that look like me. Even when I was in private school, it was still a predominantly Black private school. So yeah, once I, started to get older, and I mean, when I was considering going to A&T, it was like, I kind of wanted to follow in your footsteps a little bit.
And I wanted to push you there. I'm not going to lie. Like, I really wanted you to go to A&T, even though it was out of state, and that out of state tuition was like out the wazoo.
It was. And even when that first semester, when I was there, we did even try to get in-state tuition.
Yeah, it
didn't work.
Epic fail.
Yeah. And I feel like if it did work, I would have stayed. I would have stayed a little longer.
Okay.
But I don't know. I was just considering at the time, like, y'all don't know, my first semester, I failed a class. Okay. I failed my math class. So I was out partying and doing all the stuff I was
crazy
doing.
Because you're smart.
That math class was hard. Do you hear me? Okay. And it's just like coming out of high school and going into college, and you don't have somebody over your back all the time, and you go through that period of adjusting to being on your own and having to be responsible for yourself and your work and things like that. You be slipping coming out of high school. Yeah. So, I feel like I said, if I would have, if we would have gotten that in-state tuition, it would have lowered the blow a little bit for me. But I knew that you were paying a lot of money out of pocket, especially and with out-of-state tuition, that it was like, okay, if I decide to transfer, I mean, I had visited Savannah State's campus and it was beautiful. Their campus is beautiful.
I will agree with that. Savannah State has a gorgeous campus.
The University by the Sea. Yeah. Okay. That's our little slogan or whatever you want to call it. It's a very beautiful college. So when I was considering transferring, I remembered how much I enjoyed the campus. I knew it was smaller, which was something that I needed at the time because, like I said, I was very overwhelmed being at A&T with so many people. Like, my class that came into A&T was the largest freshman class that they had when I was there, which was the total body was about 11,000 students. So it was overwhelming for me. Yeah. But I wanted to go somewhere in state. I had scholarship money. It was cheaper. And like I said,
Hope scholarship.
Yes, Hope scholarship. And I had a scholarship from the school on top of that.
Correct.
So, those were all things that I wanted to consider and be mindful of when, I was considering transferring at the time. So
my pockets, thank you.
Yes. Yes. Especially after I failed that class, y'all.
Listen. Okay, so little known Black history fact. Mm-hmm. Do you even know what that's from?
No.
Oh my gosh, you've never listened to the Tom Joyner morning show?
Probably, like when we were driving around in Atlanta when you were driving me
back in the day. I mean, it's still around. I don't listen to the radio because I don't drive to work. I work from home now. But
who listens to the radio these days, though?
Well, true. Yeah. Anyway, Tom Joyner used to do a little known Black history fact every single day on his morning show. So like when I come up with stuff, I'm like, little known Black history fact.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So my little known Black history, actually I have two. The second one's going to shock you. The first one is I didn't fail a class my freshman year. I did withdraw from a class because I was about to fail. Listen, I would rather withdraw than to have that
until you got all them W's on your transcript
instead of having that F on my transcript. So that's little Black history fact, little known Black history fact number one. The second one is I actually attended North Carolina Central for a brief time.
I feel like I knew that.
I went to summer school. Not because I had to. So
you did tell me that. Yeah. Okay. So that you can get ahead.
I did.
Right.
See how smart I am? The summer after my freshman year, I actually did not have an internship. So instead of just doing nothing for the summer, I decided to go to summer school so I could get ahead. So I went to summer school at North Carolina Central. So technically, I have gone to 2 HBCUs.
Little known Black history fact. Okay. With everything that's been said, how do you feel about the future of HBCUs and where we're going from that perspective?
I think the future is bright. And I say that because of all of the recognition that HBCUs are getting now, the alumni that have come out of HBCUs. So speaking specifically about A&T, we have alumni like Jesse Jackson, like Ron McNair, who was an astronaut, Black astronaut, unfortunately, who passed away during the shuttle Challenger accident. Like I think I was in 3rd grade. But that's actually where the name came from. Our engineering college is the Ron E. McNair College of Engineering. Terrence J. So I think having people like that, and look, Big Baby, we got to talk about Big Baby. So he's a comedian, recent graduate of North Carolina A&T.
And he has a lot of A&T pride. And
oh my gosh.
He loves to come back for homecoming and also do the comedy show and things like that as well. So.
Yeah, so shout out to Big Baby. But yeah, with, having alumni who are doing very well, not just in the public eye and celebrities, but, people just like myself who, we've done well. We've done well in our careers. We have politicians, all types of people. So I think having that type of recognition is just going to continue to catapult HBCUs into a better light. We are more well known now. And I think that's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah. I agree with you. And even like you said, what you mentioned earlier about like the band and the gospel choir being on Amazon Prime and things like that. Again, I just think it's really important to showcase that so that, young Black women and men or boys and girls can, like I said, just continue to come back to HBCUs and come back to y'all's roots. I think it's really important to continue to fund these, institutions and things like that because they're doing a lot for our communities. And like I said earlier, these institutions were built for us because we couldn't get the education and those kind of resources and things like that back then. So it is very important to keep them alive.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just a quick little, I guess, statistic, A&T graduates the largest number of Black engineers in the world. So, not in the state, not in the country, so there's something to be said about institutions where we feel comfortable, we feel confident, we know that we're going to not only get the education, but we also, like you said, have that community. And I feel like that in and of itself should make people want to continue to contribute, to go to HBCUs, even if your parents didn't or you haven't been pushed to do that. We have that type of reach where, companies are seeking us out. And I'm just going to give a quick shout out to the career services like at A&T. When I tell you, like, after my freshman year, I didn't, but after I worked for IBM at the age of 19 or 20. So, to be able to do something like that in an internship, and there are so many other, large, well-known companies that come to our schools specifically to recruit us.
Right.
So don't count us out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And just to touch a little bit on that, like you said, career fairs and like you said, career services, they, like you said, are just really, pushing us and helping us to get to where we are. You know what I mean? Especially from a career perspective. My advisor was very helpful with me on my job seeking journey and things like that. And I, got an internship at some point in my collegiate or academic career as well. But yeah, like you said, shout out to career services and, you know, those career fairs that go on campus, because like you said, they're coming to recruit people like us because, you know, they know the greatness.
Listen, and I feel like, and I can't speak from a personal perspective, but I feel like you're not necessarily going to get that level of hands-onness from a PWI.
I agree, because especially those larger PWIs, people have said, you know, you just kind of feel like a number.
Yeah.
Instead of, and again, that's another reason why I transferred to Savannah State. It was like more intimate for me. You know, the teachers knew my name, and it again, it was just more intimate. So I agree with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Any final thoughts or any additional comments that you may have to celebrate our HBCUs, our culture, traditions?
I just got 2 words for you.
Aggie pride.
Aggie pride. And that's it.
Yeah. Tiger pride over here, baby.
And listen, it's always love. It is always love. So
that blue and orange look good on me, I know.
It does.
So shout out Savannah State. That's on 1890, like I said. Okay.
Or I gotta turn all the way around. 1891, North Carolina A&T. So, you know, shout out to our ancestors for creating these opportunities for us.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that for us.
I do too.
Yeah.
I love my SSU. Go Tigers. I know you did your Aggie pride.
Okay.
So I had to do one of my little chants. Okay. So
I love it. HBCUs are important. Bottom line, no questions asked. Like, we are here to stay. I'm glad that we are around. So again, shout out to our ancestors who, you know, made this possible, and give back to your universities. Again, if you don't have the means or can't do it from a financial perspective, find a way to volunteer, find a way to get involved. There's always some type of way that you can give back, even, you know, if it's not from a financial perspective. So those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just echo a bit of what you said and just say that HBCUs are important. And I just think that it is important to continue to showcase, uplift our HBCUs, and, you know, get us out there in the media. Homecoming, we know, is a very special time for all colleges and universities.
But especially GHO.
Especially HBCUs, period.
My bad.
So as an alumni, if you're older, younger, even as a current student, don't be afraid to partake in homecoming, especially if, you know, that's something that you're really interested in doing. It's a fun time. It's a great time.
Yeah.
So I just think that, again, from homecoming to the academic perspective to just HBCU culture, traditions, all of that, it's all very important. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions.
Yeah, I think, like, if you have questions about our schools, feel free to shoot us a message, or more importantly, tell us what your HBCU is.
Yeah.
For those of you that were fortunate enough, because I always think it's a thing of, you know, being fortunate to go to an HBCU, because, you know, a lot of people and students just don't have the means to go to college, period.
Right.
So, you know, it is definitely a privilege not only to go to college, but to go to an HBCU. So shout out your HBCUs in the comments, please. Let us shout you out. You know, so yeah.
Yes. Shout out to all the HBCUs out there. With that being said, everyone, that wraps up today's episode of the Mother Daughter Mixtape. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the MD, M as in Mother, D as in Daughter Mixtape. You can also find us on TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
and YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
You can find us everywhere.
Just about. With that being said, like I said, this wraps up today's episode. We will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for watching.
Bye.
Bye.